Welcome to the Elisha Space Podcast, where we explore stories of healing, hope, and transformation. I'm your host, Elisha, and today we have a powerful episode for you. We'll be hearing from Rhonda James Woolard, a survivor who has turned her pain into purpose and is now helping others find their path to healing.
Hello, audience of Elisha Space. It is such an amazing time right now. I want to thank all of you for being part of our community. We are just growing, and it's because of you. So I want to thank you all for taking out the time to listen to the shows, and whether it be on our YouTube channel or through the many different other platforms that we have with Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those fun, Amazon Music. However you listen to us, I just want to say thank you. Now, today, I am super excited because we have Rhonda James Woolard with us today. I am excited to have her with us today because I think that her journey of healing is going to resonate with all of you. She is a sexual abuse survivor, a certified master coach, an international speaker, and a best-selling author of the book, A Time to Heal, which can be found on her website. She also founded the ministry, A Time to Heal. And also, I will add that she is also a social worker with over 2 decades of experience. So she has a lot of information and wealth that she can bring onto the show. This is part 1 of the show with her. And then we're going to do part 2 with the show with her, like we've done with others in the past. So, Rhonda, I want to thank you for joining us today. I am truly honored to have you with us and excited with what you're going to share.
Thank you, Elisha.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And I also want to thank you for being open to sharing your story. This might be a trigger alert for some of you because she's going to share her story with us. How are you feeling about the conversation we're going to be having today?
So, I was sexually abused when I was young, around the age of 10, by my stepfather. And so I was the oldest of 3. And my 2 sisters, they had the same mother and father. And I was the only one that didn't. And so when my sister was born, I kind of felt like an outsider. So I kind of wanted attention. And my stepfather was an alcoholic. So he was an excellent provider. When he was sober, he was just a wonderful person. But when he was drinking, he was a totally different person. So I was able to go to him about different things. So when my menstruation started at school, I told my stepfather. That was the first person that I knew. And so it started off with hugs, and then it ended up escalating. And for me, it started off with attention that I had not been receiving. But eventually I realized that it wasn't right because it started escalating. And he would send my sisters to the store and give them money, and he wouldn't let me go. And that's when it would occur. I was raised in the church. And so I would pray to God and I would ask him, why is this happening to me? What have I done for this to happen to me? And I would constantly call out to him to help me. And so eventually my mother caught him. It was really ironic because he never did anything to me when my mother was there. She was actually outside cutting the grass that day. and I was in the bathroom, and I reflect on it, that was odd. And so she caught him, and that's how it came out. And my family didn't understand why I didn't share what was going on. Well, number one, I didn't think my mother would believe me about what happened. And then number two, they didn't know. And that's something that I'm just sharing in the past year, that I had a lot of guilt and shame because I had mentioned that I wanted attention, and I had kissed him back one time. And so for 40 years, I carried that guilt and that shame. So even though I am an intelligent woman, even though I have over 20 years of experience as a social worker, I have the education, I have worked with individuals that have been sexually abused, I had been stuck for over 40 years with that guilt and that shame. Even though I know better, I still was stuck at that young age with that mentality. And so I didn't open up. And back then, my grandmother wanted me to get therapy. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to talk about it. But now that I'm older and have experienced therapy, having a therapist, having a psychiatrist, having a psychologist, I realized how much insight that my grandmother was ahead of the times. 40 years ago, she was ahead of the times, because now there's so much stigma around using mental health services. Wish that I would have utilized, but I didn't know, because again, I had that shame and that guilt, and I didn't really want people to know what I had done.
I was just going to say, it sounds like he was grooming you.
Yes, because like I said, it started off with hug and then it escalated. And that's why even now, as an adult, I don't like to be hugged. I have to initiate hugs. Now, I can hug you, but I don't like for people to hug me. My church that I went to, they will sing this song, something about hug everybody. I hated that song because I felt so phony hugging people, because I just didn't like it, because I need to be the one to facilitate.
So what happened after your mother caught him?
Well, after she caught him, two things happened. My grandparents came and got me, and I went to live with them. And my adopted grandmother came into the picture. And it was recommended not to call the police because he would lose his job and go to jail. So that was something else that for over 40 years that I learned, that recently in this past year that I was stuck for 40 years. So with my family, I would be the peacemaker. If they did something I didn't like, I wouldn't say anything. Would be the peacemaker, wouldn't rock the boat, wouldn't say anything. Now, other people, I would be vocal. But when it came to my family, I wouldn't. And what I learned when I co-authored the book, A Catalyst Change, I learned that I was stuck. I was stuck there. And that I learned that I did not matter. That's what I learned. That's why with my family, even though my grandparents was very supportive and loving, my close family, I learned that I didn't matter.
In my practice, especially in the Black community, that's what we did. We didn't tell the police when this all happened, was these things happened. We wouldn't tell the police. We would try to handle it within the community. Did the family try to keep it secret from the church and things of that nature too?
Well, it's interesting. When the first book came, a lot of people didn't know. But then there was a lot of people that did. So within my family, I have been the secret. I have been the family secret. The majority, my life, it's like it never happened.
Okay. And what about with your mom? What's your relationship like with your mom?
Well, me and my mother, we are close. And then I think when I co-authored the first book, I think the dynamics have changed because she's not supportive. I realized not only from my expertise and just as a human and as a Christian that we don't walk other people's shoes. And I, as a mother, can't see the choices that she made, but I do realize I was not in her shoes and that she had other children also. And I don't know what she was thinking.
I think too that her capacity of being able to earn, to provide, was also limited as well.
Yes.
And it's not fair, but at the same time, I can understand why she made the difficult choice she made, because there was a time that women couldn't even own a home. Like you couldn't have a mortgage. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't have a bank account. So I understand, like I can extend, even though I'll be honest, Rhonda, I'm a little conflicted, but I do understand why she chose what she chose, because there wasn't a lot that she could do to protect you, as far as that's concerned. What motivated you to speak out? What brought you to a place to speak out?
I agree with what you just said.
Yeah, it's a tough place.
Right. That's why I wanted her to be a part of this, because she could tell her side better than I can. We don't know what each other will do unless we are in that situation. I have been in situations that I would never have thought that I would have been in, or made choices that I would have thought I would have made. We might look at it more severe, but it's still a choice. Now, back to your question about dealing with this, about speaking out. It started out with a Facebook post. That's how it started. So a young lady named Vanita Council Howard made a Facebook post, and she asked for individuals to collaborate on a book if you have been sexually abused or was a victim of domestic violence. And I reached out and I collaborated with her and another young lady, Angela Dudley. Now, they are victims of survivors of domestic violence, and they lost children to domestic violence. And so in the process of writing that, I had to face the trauma that I had been through. I had to really face it. And it started me on a healing journey. I had to dig deep. I had to go back where I had been to write my chapter in the book, not from an adult perspective, from the perspective as a child. Because if I would have did it from an adult perspective, it would have been totally different. And through that process, when it came out and different ones read it that had experienced, they said, this happened to me. This is what I went through. Or thank you for saying what you say. And even my son, my youngest son, he said, Mama, I can't believe you were so vulnerable.
Right.
And I said, I had to be authentic. Even when I wrote it, my mother said, well, you could have said things differently. No, I couldn't. It had to be authentic. Again, if I would have wrote it from an adult perspective, it would have been different. But from a child perspective, from that perspective, that's how it had to come. And another thing about it is, it's my story.
Absolutely.
It's my story to tell. And I finally started telling it. And the thing is, I haven't told it all.
I also think that during that process, first of all, writing is very cathartic. So it allows you as an outlet. We're in similar fields. So we both know the power of journaling and writing things out. It's very cathartic. But I think what else the Lord was doing is he was removing the shame.
Yes, yes. Again, I had mentioned that I had forgiven my stepfather. But the biggest hurdle was forgiving myself. And that's where God was trying to get me, is forgiving myself. And that's where the true healing began. And that's what got me to the book, writing the book, A Time to Heal. 7 Steps to Healing and Forgiveness After Sexual Abuse and Assault. And the Forgive Framework.
What would you say to someone who might, it just seems like the legal system and society and the connection doesn't do much, or don't, I'll just say it, even in 2025, they don't do not much to protect survivors of sexual assault. What would you like to see change?
Well, I think the laws need to be more stringent. I think that there needs to be programs for those individuals. Again, I talk forgiveness. So we're talking about individuals that possibly they could have been abused themselves.
A lot of times it comes from trauma. Right.
Yes. We don't know what their background was, what they went through, whether they were in domestic. Not to say that what they did was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But most likely there is a story. They have so wanting to give them a pass, but also to say that they probably need some kind of help also. I do believe that the law should be stringent, but they should have some kind of therapy or, things of that nature.
We are going to talk, audience, on the forgiveness part, on the part 2 of this, the second part of this. But let me ask you, Rhonda, what If you wanted to say something to the survivors, what would you want? What would you want them to know, or someone who's presently going through something like this?
What I would tell them is to take control, not to give control to somebody else or something. You have control.
Okay.
You have control.
How could they take control?
How you, and if we're getting ready to end, that's what we're going to talk about in the
Are we there?
forgive framework.
I'm sorry. How can someone take control?
So do you want me to start talking about the framework?
We can talk about it tomorrow when we get over to the forgiveness part. But if someone is physically, if they're experiencing molestation or sexual abuse, what would you say to them right now?
If they are experiencing it right now, tell somebody. If they are experiencing it, because statistically, sexual abuse, most of the time, it is unreported. So I would say to tell somebody. If you tell somebody and they don't believe you, keep telling somebody until somebody listens. Because, go ahead.
No, well, I keep thinking about the ones who have spoken up.
Yes.
And how they've not been believed. You know, what would you say to them when you say keep telling somebody? What would you say to them?
There are support groups. You can journal. You can write letters to yourself, to your perpetrator. You can tear them up if you don't want other people to release your feelings. You can do that. You can meditate. Depending on your faith, you can pray. But if you don't pray, you can do some type of meditation. But also check into different support groups in your area. Not only that, I recommend therapy.
Most definitely.
I definitely recommend therapy. You have to, if you have, by chance, I realize that there are some good therapists and there are some that might not be a good fit for you. If one is not a good fit for you, don't give up. Find a therapist that is a good fit for you.
When I work with individuals who are survivors of sexual abuse, but really other types of abuse, one of the primary things that happens is your voice gets taken away. Because a lot of times the person that is abusing you doesn't want you to speak on what's happening. So one of the very first things that comes is they try to take your voice. So when you start to use your voice, you're taking you back.
Yes.
So if someone else, if it matters, but it doesn't even matter because you have to choose you. Mm-hmm. See, something that Rhonda said is that, you know, the family thought about her stepfather, and I'm not beating up the family because, like I said, we didn't, especially in the Black community, we didn't go to the police. We didn't trust the police. We did not handle it well, honestly, especially for survivors of sexual abuse. We did not handle it well at all. But one of the things you can do in regards to moving forward is to use your voice. And I've even told survivors who talk about Facebook posts that they have to find an outlet to start telling their story. And if you have to do that in a support group, if you have to do that in therapy, if you have to do that with friends, someone you trust, but you have to start using your voice. Otherwise, you're not going to get to that place of healing because what happened is not your fault. What happened was something that happened to you. You were a child. A lot of times it happens when we're young, when we're vulnerable. You were a vulnerable child. You were probably just figuring out and learning about your body to begin with. So When those things are happening, please use your voice and don't allow, that is one of the first steps of you getting you back, you figuring out who you are, you working through your trauma. And that's what Rhonda did. She used her voice. And when she started using her voice, her healing journey really began. Tomorrow is our taping, but I will try to put these videos together. So, Rhonda, I want to thank you so much for talking more about this, making people aware about this. Before we go, is there anything else that you want them to know about your story?
I just want you to know that the world is your oyster.
There's hope.
Yes.
Right.
Even through the pain, the tears, there is hope.
And you will get on the other side of this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, audience, I encourage you to listen to part 2 of the video. We knew when we were talking that this was going to be a long show. So we decided to break it up into 2 videos. If someone wants to get in contact with you, Rhonda, how can they get in contact with you?
So if you would like to get in contact with me, you can go to my website, yourtimetoheal.net.
Okay, thank you so much.
It has actually passed.
Okay.
My journal, I'm having pre-orders for my journal. It is a time to heal, a 30-day forgiveness devotional.
I love that. So I will have that information in the show notes of both shows that we're doing, today's show and the show where we're talking about forgiveness and the journey, where she talks about her healing journey where it brought her to a place of greater forgiveness. Rhonda, I want to thank you for joining the show with us today. And we're so looking forward to hearing part 2. Audience, if you heard anything at all, there's a lot. But one of the things I would say, if you heard anything at all, I am hoping that you take the gems of what was said and apply it into your healing journey so that you can move to a greater space. Don't live in shame. Use your voice, because it's through your voice you start to get you back. Thank you for joining Elisha Space, and we look forward to having you guys join us on the next show.